Hey, what's up everybody? Commander Radix here, bringing you another episode of Transformers More Lore. My series where I take your Transformers lore related questions and answer them. Now I realize that the last episode was like 10 months ago, but what are you gonna do, sue me? But before we start off this episode of me answering your Transformers lore questions, I want to remind you that around 80% of you have not subscribed to the channel yet. You can subscribe, it's free, and you can unsubscribe later if you don't like what's coming out, since we do a variety of stuff on the channel, but it really helps the channel out. By the way, you didn't hear it from me, but 80% of viewers being unsubscribed is actually a healthy number. If you have a higher percentage of people who are subscribed, that just means your videos aren't being put out to a wider audience, which you didn't hear that from me. It's all a marketing scheme. If you have questions about Transformers lore that you want a Transformers lore master, I guess, to talk about, leave leave your questions in the comments below, and I'll get back to you in, 10 months when the next episode comes out? Sentinel Prime says, how do the 13 Primes and the Descendants work? Like, are all of the female Transformers related to Solus Prime? Not all. The way it works is, and I've talked about this in like the second or third episode of my main Transformers lore trilogy, which I intend to redo properly at some point, but basically, in different universes, but not all universes, but in a lot of universes, the 13s budded. Their CNA came out of them in a sort of, not organic, but like in a sort of living matter, and eventually solidified into, like a protoform, and eventually solidified into its own transformer. And with the CNA passed down, generation to generation, they are descendants. Through other universes, their CNA can be spread through like the Allspark Cube for some reason. But as you say here, are all female Transformers related to Solus Prime? No. For one, we don't know about the origin of female Transformers in post-Shroud universes, and even then, there are universes where the 13 really didn't touch, like the Malgus cluster, so Transformers Animated, they really didn't have a role in. That just happens to have female Transformers that aren't explained in the lore. But yeah, usually they're just sent through budding or through some other process that can somehow spread there, because the Allspark Cube does somehow spread the genes of the 13. We know like a lot of the first Transformers were made through the Allspark Cube and were descendants of the 13, so that's weird, but it's how it works. Spawny2002 asks, is the Marvel UK stories a separate continuity? I assume you mean separate from like the Marvel US stories, and the answer is yes. A bulk of the Marvel UK stories take place in Primax 984.20 Gamma, separate from Primax 984.0 Gamma, which is where the US stuff happens. That being said, of course, there are other universes that take place within the pages of the Marvel Transformers comic. Rhythm of Darkness comes to mind, the universe where Galvatron II came from, and the UK comics also add the Earth Force universe, which is another branching timeline, separate from the main Marvel UK timeline. So there's several timelines, but the Marvel UK continuity, for the most part, is Primax 984.20 Gamma. Yori Nightfall says, how do Transformers format their bodies to have things like rubber tires, glass windows, and basically anything other than metal parts? That is all living metal. Living metal, despite it being called living metal, it's very atomic structure, its matter changes to meet the scan of the Transformer. So glass is made out of living metal, their tires are made out of living metal, even their ammunition in their guns are made of living metal, which gets inconsistent when it's like, oh yeah, Transformers have unlimited ammo, it literally comes from their bodies, and then it's like, here's this one weird story from the 80s where these characters are running out of ammo in this battle. It's like, which I guess you could explain as like, a lizard can lose its tail, but it's going to take some time for it to grow back. Maybe they aren't producing enough ammunition in that particular battle, whatever. But it's all living metal, which I made a video on, by the way. John Goals says, in Age of Extinction, when Prime states that the spark contains their life force and their memories, contradicts the memory cells/chips in the brain module statement you made. Though in G1, when Brainstorm develops the Headmaster technology, he has himself and the Headmasters download their memories into their chest. With this in mind, is this a universal capability of Cybertronians to copy their minds to their sparks with a failsafe? as a failsafe, which could better explain the scene in animated with Master Yokotron and Prowl. Biologically speaking, the multiversal, before the Shroud, biologically speaking, Transformers are, for the most part, anatomically, biologically the same. They are the same species. There might be a little bit different genetics, like we said with CNA here and there, but biologically they are the same. Age of Extinction Prime doesn't necessarily contradict my statement. Transformers have gone on the record for not being the most expert about their own biology. It varies from universe to universe as to how much they understand properly about their own biology. Some universes, they know how it all works, it's all down. Other universes, they don't even figure out that they have the innate ability to transform until some other race unlocks it for them, or a new technology is developed that unlocks that ability for them. It's not that they invented transformation, they've always had that biologically, in them, but they've had to have a scientist or the Quintessons discover it for them. Is this a universally... So if a Transformer can do that in a pre-Shroud universe, I think it's safe to assume that generally speaking, most pre-Shroud Transformers can do the same. That it might require the use of another technology that they just haven't invented in their society, stuff like that. But generally, I think if they had access to the same technology, biologically speaking, downloading your mind into the spark. But yeah, they could probably do that. Probably, Of course, there's not going to be any book that comes out that explicitly states this. As lore masters, we kind of have to put the pieces together. Pterodax Makuta asks, is Unicron from the G1 cartoon God, or is he just a giant robot created by a space monkey? Is he the multiversal being? I'm planning on making a Primacronian Unicron video soon. By soon, I could mean 2 years from now. It's complicated. The short answer is no. The Primacronian Unicron is not the multiversal Unicron. He's separate from that multiversal singularity entity. However, and we'll get more into this in the Primacronian Unicron video, there have been hints dropped along the line that they might not be that separate as they might seem. The Primacronian Unicron has shown to have a lot of the same properties of the multiversal Unicron that really doesn't make sense for him to have, such as being able to reach out through the multiverse to grab any given character, as he does in Transformers Legends. Controverse really implies that Primacron might have known something about the multiversal Unicron before making Unicron, or making Unicron. He implies that he didn't actually make the spark of the Primacronian Unicron, and there's hints here and there that the Primacronian Unicron might have some connection to multiversal Unicron. They might not entirely be separate entities, but the Primacronian Unicron is not the multiversal singular Unicron, though there might be there might be a connection here and there. He might be a bit more than meets the eye, and honestly, I think it was something that the Japanese fiction in particular was about to explain more. They've been sort of dropping hints along the line, but now that the Shrouds happen, it doesn't really matter now. But the Quintessons, and this is just getting to the stuff I wanted to talk about in that video, but the Quintessons, who are made by Unicron, understand themselves to be the creation of a multiversal singular Unicron. The Quintessons understand Primacronian Unicron to be part of the multiversal singular Unicron, which is weird. And it's like, what do you guys know that we don't? The Quintessons are a bit weird like that. So again, hints have been planted here and there that they are the same person. At the same time, Thrust, when he got called into the Japanese cartoon universe by the Primacronian Unicron, he's like, that's Unicron, but I can feel that this is a different Unicron. This isn't the multiversal singular Unicron I know. So I feel like I'm rambling at this point. The short answer is no. The long answer is it's complicated. John Goals says, let's assume Soundwave stored all of his cassettes into his chest. Laserbeak, Buzzsaw, Rumble, Frenzy, Ravage, Ratbat, Over... You're just listing names now. Where is his spark? Behind all of them, smushed in the back, above them, below them? How is Soundwave, and for that matter Blaster, still able to function if their spark chambers are filled with other Cybertronians? This comment is made with two assumptions. Assumption number one is that Laserbeak, Buzzsaw, and all the cassette bots maintain their size inside another transformer. It also has the assumption that sparks are stored in the chest. Sparks can be stored wherever. They could be stored in the shoulder, they could be stored on like your right forearm, they could be stored on your back, they could be stored on your shoulder. Sparks aren't necessarily chest organs. So we have no idea where Soundwave or Blaster's sparks are. Second, the cassette bots likely use some sort of mass shifting, because obviously a real cassette player can't hold that many cassettes. It's not probably like doing an exact biological one-to-one scale of a tape recorder. I would assume the cassettes are doing mass shifting, so they aren't actually that size when they're inside Soundwave. And that looks like to be all the questions for this video. So thank you guys so much for asking your questions. If you have questions for Transformers More Lore, leave them in the comments. I'll get to them in the next Transformers More Lore episode, whenever that comes out. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe if you have not yet. 80% of you have not subscribed to the channel yet. It's a great free way to support video production on the channel, and you can always unsubscribe later if you want. Yeah, so make sure to check me out on all my social media, links in the description. Basically, my Discord and Tumblr is where I'm mostly active at, and Instagram too, I guess. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.